you want your brain to have a strong association that your bed equals sleep. And for people who have been struggling to sleep for a long time, they've lost that association. So to get that back, I suggest getting out of bed. If you think it's been 10 or 20 minutes or so and you haven't fallen asleep, get out of bed, leave the room, go do something relaxing. You want to keep the lights dim. You don't really want to watch TV or scroll on your phone. So yeah, go do something relaxing. Once you get sleepy, then go back to bed.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. Right now, I don't know anyone who's sleeping like a baby. It's hard to sleep when everything is in chaos and stress is through the roof and our emotions are all over the place. Maybe you're exhausted, but the minute you lie down, you feel wired. Or maybe every little sound is waking you up. Or maybe you're like me and you're waking up in the wee hours of the morning and you cannot for the life of you get back to sleep. And the thing is, good sleep hygiene. You're supposed to be sleeping in a dark room without your phone and going to bed at the same time each night. So what else can you do? Well, it turns out there is a lot else you can do. There are tricks to getting a good night's sleep that no one has ever told you. And if you stick around, you're going to learn sleep secrets that you can put to work in your own life immediately. Our guest for today is Martha Lewis, a sleep consultant to health-conscious high achievers who want to sleep but can't. With a background in holistic nutrition and gut health, she gets at the root cause of her clients' insomnia by combining sleep foundations, stress resilience techniques, and lab testing. Welcome, Martha.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
So before we get into your sleep tips, I have to ask you the big question. How many hours of sleep do you get a night?
I like between 8 and 8.5 and always have.
Well, so is that the average? I know that we have, there's been a lot of research into, what's the minimum amount of sleep. Some people are even saying you could get too much sleep. What's your perspective on that?
Well, the range is 7 to 9 hours, so it's going to be different for everyone. But they found that the minimum of 7 hours is because you're more likely to develop many chronic diseases when you're getting fewer than that 7 hours of sleep a night. So that's kind of the tipping point that the researchers have found.
Okay, so we have to talk about that because I know there's a lot of people who aren't getting 7 hours of sleep, or maybe on average they get that much, but when things get stressful at work or they run out of time, they easily slip down to 6 hours. What does that do to us then? What does that do to us physically and emotionally too?
Yeah, well, we're just at higher risk of getting things like diabetes and depression and heart disease and Alzheimer's. So many chronic diseases are linked to not getting enough sleep, which is pretty crazy. And that's because so much happens when we sleep, even more than researchers even know about. But our hormones are regulated. The reason lack of sleep is connected to Alzheimer's is because of the amyloid plaques are kind of rinsed away during sleep. So if you're not getting to sleep, you're not getting that cleansing effect. So that's why, there's just so much happening when we're sleeping that we need to do to be in physical health. And then emotionally too, I'm sure people are more aware of that because they've experienced it, of being more irritable and grumpy, being more impatient and frustrated with the people around you. And, I found that for me, it really takes away my motivation. And it's shown that people who aren't sleeping are far less positive as well. So it's affecting your outlook on life too. So to me, those short-term effects are what's really most important and what we experience the most.
So I have read some information that says that actually lack of sleep can also contribute to gaining weight. Is that true?
Oh yes, definitely. There are multiple reasons why, but a lot of it has to do with two hormones that regulate our hunger. So there's ghrelin that tells our body that it's hungry, and then there's leptin that tells our body that it's full. And when you don't sleep at least 7 hours, those hormones get messed up and you actually produce more of the ghrelin hormone, telling your body that it's hungry, even if you're eating the same amount of food. So, yeah, studies show that people consume 300 to 600 more calories a day when they haven't gotten enough sleep.
Wow. That is not great. And so what a lot of us do though is that we don't get enough sleep, and to counteract that, we drink caffeine, right? There's a huge booming business in energy drinks. I mean, back in my day, coffee was not this big, the little cups. So now, there's a huge industry now in giving us ways to overcome that fatigue. How do you think caffeine is affecting our sleep cycles?
Well, caffeine has a pretty long half-life, which means it takes your body a long time to process it. And some people it takes longer than others. And women especially, it tends to take longer for that caffeine to leave your body. And so, that's why the recommendation is don't drink it after noon or 2 at the latest, because it can still be in your bloodstream hours later when you're trying to go to sleep.
So I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. One of the things that I find really interesting about your work is that you say that it's not just caffeine that's affecting how well we're sleeping, but actually our diet in general. How can diet affect sleep?
Well, so many ways, but first of all, it has a lot to do with our blood sugar. So you want your blood sugar to remain pretty stable throughout the day. And when you eat things like pastries and pastas and breads and those sugary drinks and things like that, then your blood sugar spikes. And then your body releases insulin, which lowers your blood sugar pretty low. And then you have cravings for those same foods again because your body wants that quick energy. And so then you're on the blood sugar roller coaster all day. And if that's happening during the day, then it's also going to be happening at night. And if your blood sugar levels drop too low in the night, your body is going to release cortisol, our stress hormone, because it is stressed, and that's going to wake you right up. So again, maintaining those blood sugar levels is really key to not sabotaging your sleep at night.
So there's so much conflicting information. It used to be, they used to say, have a snack before bed. Now people are saying, well, you don't want to eat, you want to give your stomach time to empty out before bed. What is your perspective on eating before going to bed?
Well, you definitely want to eat a full meal at least 2 hours before bed. So it's true, you don't want your body trying to digest a large meal while you're trying to go to sleep. It's not really going to work well. But you also shouldn't go to bed hungry. So if you are actually hungry, then a small snack can be helpful, about 100 to 200 calories at most. And you want to make sure that it's not a sugary snack like ice cream, but that you have some complex carbohydrates and some healthy fat and protein with that. So a very balanced snack to again, keep those blood sugar levels steady.
The other interesting thing that you do, and I would love to learn more about this, is you actually do lab testing on your clients. What does that have to do with insomnia?
So much, it turns out, but we don't hear about this. Um, a lot of what I'm looking at is gut health. So having an unhealthy gut, meaning if you have what's called leaky gut, where the actual intestinal lining of your gut is compromised and it's letting things into your bloodstream that it shouldn't, like toxins and undigested food and things like that. So if you have that kind of leaky gut, that's going to cause inflammation. And same with if you have some kind of gut infection, like a parasite, which people are shocked to hear about, but about 85% of us supposedly have a parasite. It's very common. Or a bacterial infection or a fungal overgrowth. So any of those things, again, are causing inflammation. And whenever there's inflammation, our body releases cortisol because it's an anti-inflammatory hormone. So it's this very important hormone, but we don't want to have any cortisol at night because that suppresses melatonin and wakes you up. So that's why this gut health is so important, looking for inflammation. And I also look at food sensitivities and do that test, because same thing, if someone is sensitive to something that we think of healthy as like a broccoli, which happens, um, then, and they're eating those foods, then again, that's causing this low grade inflammation that's causing cortisol to be released all the time. So that's how I'm getting to the root cause of what's going on that's keeping people awake at night.
Because what we usually hear is the problem is blue light, it's too much screen time. The problem is stress, we're not relaxing. The problem is sometimes it's just us, we want to stay awake too late. So you're actually saying that some of these things may be almost red herrings, that really what's going on underneath is what's causing it.
I mean, definitely still the foundations need to be there. Yes, you do want to avoid blue light before bed. Stress is a major contributor to insomnia as well, because it's, again, when you're stressed, you also release cortisol. And so it's just how much is too much, how much can your body handle? So that's why I definitely look at stress with my clients. But, I work with so many people who are following all those rules that you're talking about, right? They're not eating before bed. They're not watching blue lights. They're doing everything that they know to do, and it still isn't working. And so to me, the good news is that means we can figure out what's going on. There is something going on. It's a symptom of a bigger problem or imbalance in the body, and we can figure it out.
One of the things I've noticed recently is that, we always have a certain amount of stress and we're normally good at dealing with it. And sometimes it spikes, maybe we get less sleep, but then it resolves itself again. But right now it feels like the stress is really, really intense and it's unrelenting. And it can really be hard with our normal stress management techniques to relax enough before bed to fall asleep without worrying or waking up in the middle of the night. What do you recommend for clients who are just in a really, really intense period and it doesn't look like the stress is going to get any better?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to have stress all the time. And so it's just a matter of dealing with that stress. So I find things like meditation practice is really helpful. Lowering, again, that's going to lower cortisol, lower those stress hormones. It also lowers your blood pressure and your heart rate and everything. So it's a great thing to do before bed if you're used to doing that. I don't suggest adding anything new before bed because that can be stressful. So, but yeah, meditation is key. Journaling, I find, really helps as well. And, I like a specific kind of journaling where, say, you are worried about certain things, like say you're worried about finances or you're worried about losing your job. Okay, so get all those worries down on paper, write them all down, and then come up with a plan of what you're going to do if that stuff happens. And so write all that down. What are you going to do? Then you realize it's not going to be the end of the world, and that you have a plan if something happens. And most likely you're not going to end up homeless, on the streets, unable to support yourself. So, I think definitely our thoughts can just get out of control in the middle of the night, and those worries and those anxieties, especially right now when everything is so up in the air. And so finding a solution, allows your brain to relax about it and not be searching for that solution at 3 a.m.
Yes.
So that's what I would suggest to start.
So one of the things we tend to do, unfortunately, in the middle of the night is, instead of thinking about, I'm going to journal, instead of thinking about something healthy, we think, I'm going to go to that bottle of sleeping pills. What's your perspective on like pharmaceutical responses to insomnia?
Yeah, I think medication has its place. And for, someone going through a really stressful period, like say death of a family member, something pretty traumatic, then for a few nights to get some sleep, I think that's not the end of the world. They're not meant to be taken long term though. But they're prescribed long term. And I see it as a medical solution to what's not a medical problem. And, sleeping pills have a lot of side effects. I mean, they can cause brain fog and dizziness and, that really being tired during the day. It can add to high blood pressure. It can increase memory loss because it's really not a true kind of sleep that you're getting. It's more a sedation and not true sleep. And so all the functions that your body needs to do when it's sleeping don't necessarily happen when you're taking sleeping pills. I also, they're very addictive. So again, not meant to be taken long term. People have a really hard time coming off of them, and their insomnia can get even worse during that process. So it's not fun to wean off of sleeping pills. And really, they don't actually work all that well. um, Studies show that it reduces the time it takes to fall asleep by 15 minutes, but the total sleep is only increased by 3 to 30 minutes. So you might be taking this pill with all kinds of effects to add 3 minutes to your sleep. To me, it hardly seems worth it.
Yes. What do you think about the natural solutions? Like people take melatonin, they've got all sorts of natural supplements.
Well, I think there haven't been enough studies done on melatonin to really understand the long-term risk of that. There's evidence that if you take a hormone like that, then your body's going to stop producing it on its own. So I'm not a huge fan of melatonin either. Instead work with people to make sure they produce melatonin naturally, which does have to do with what you're doing before bed and even what you do during the day as well, as far as light goes and managing your stress and things like that.
And you're actually offering our viewers a free gift, 5 mistakes busy professionals make when they can't sleep and what they can do instead.
Yes, exactly. And I'd love to share the main mistake, and then the viewers can check out the rest. But my main piece of advice for if you're having a hard time falling asleep at bedtime, or if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're having a hard time going back to sleep, is to actually get out of bed. So you want your brain to have a strong association that your bed equals sleep. And for people who have been struggling to sleep for a long time, they've lost that association. So to get that back, I suggest getting out of bed. If you think it's been 10 or 20 minutes or so and you haven't fallen asleep, get out of bed, leave the room, go do something relaxing. You want to keep the lights dim. You don't really want to watch TV or scroll on your phone. So yeah, go do something relaxing. Once you get sleepy, then go back to bed and keep doing that until you're able to go back to bed and go to sleep. And it's really hard the first few nights, but it was a game changer for my sleep, and it's been a game changer for a lot of my clients too. So I really recommend doing that.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you would like to get your copy of Martha's free gift and maybe get in contact with her to see if she could help you with your sleep issues, then we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/sleep. That's yourbrilliance.org/sleep. Thank you so much, Martha, for coming on to the show. And I wondered if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Yes, my main message is that if you aren't sleeping, then we can fix it. So don't give up hope, and just know that it doesn't have to be like that, and you can get the sleep you need.
Thank you so much, Martha. And thank you out there for watching. Now, what was your biggest aha moment from this interview? Share it with us in the comments. And for more interviews like these, make sure to subscribe to Your Brilliance TV here on YouTube, and then hop on over to yourbrilliance.com for more tips and insights on how you can live your most brilliant life. See you next time.